Welcome to ClientConnect Contact Importing. In order to import contacts into ClientConnect, you've got to export them out of some other source first. Such sources as Outlook, Google, Yahoo Mail, Top Producer, all the major providers have an export function of some sort, and you're going to want to access your contact list in that system or those systems and export your contacts out. The format in which the contacts are exported is very, very similar to Microsoft Excel. And the format of the file is called .csv. CSV stands for comma-separated values. It's much like the file extension for, say, a Microsoft Word document is .doc or a Microsoft Excel file is .xls. So you don't have to be an engineer to export to a CSV file, but it's important to know that your contact export will be visible from within Microsoft Excel so that you can make small changes as necessary. First thing to do is to identify your list in whatever system you're using. In Google, you would look on the left-hand side and you would select Contacts. You would see a list. In Microsoft Outlook, you would go for Advanced Options and you would look for the exporting function there. Yahoo Mail has a Contact section and there is an export function underneath that. In most cases, you'll be asked, what format would you like to export to? Microsoft Outlook is a pretty standardized format, so it's not a bad selection to use. Google, for example, when you export, gives you a choice of Google CSV format or Outlook CSV format. I've found that Outlook CSV format is pretty friendly to most systems, including ClientConnect. So I won't walk you through the exporting of every system that's out there, but most systems make it reasonably easy to find. You just have to get to the contact list, locate the export function, pick which contacts you're going to export, and then proceed with the export by clicking on the appropriate button. Typically you will get a download, which you may then open up and look at. Now, as I mentioned before, these files will tend to open up in Microsoft Excel. And they're fairly intuitive in that you have columns which describe the data and you have rows in which the data appears, such as names, email addresses, all that kind of good stuff. Before you import into ClientConnect, there's one thing that you want to do. You want to have a column that's called status. And you can do that either by inserting a new column, or you can just use a column that doesn't have any data in it. You may not need a column that's called, for example, Internet Free Busy. So you could simply replace that text with the word status. Now, resave your Excel file, and do that by going to the Save As function. And do not save your file as an Excel format. You want to look for the Other Formats option if you see it that way, or if it's a file type drop-down, such as we see here, and we're looking for CSV, in this case, comma delimited. And then you can give your file a name just to make it easier to find. Place it on the desktop if you like. I'm going to call this Contacts for Importing into ClientConnect. And we're going to save that on our desktop. When you get this warning about certain features not being compatible, don't worry about that. Just click on Yes, and then proceed to your ClientConnect account to begin the import. Sign into your ClientConnect account at ccsignon.com. Once you're logged into your ClientConnect account and you're looking at your dashboard, look at the upper right of the screen for your name and click on your name. and then select the first choice underneath, which is My Profile. The My Profile section has the link to the import function on the left. So you've got to go to My Profile before you're going to see that import link. Click on Import on the left, and you'll start at the importing tool where you'll be asked, what module do you want to import your data to? It may be tempting to import your names into the Leads section, but resist that urge. You always want to import into Contacts when you're in ClientConnect. Even though some of your contacts may technically be leads, just ignore that. Import directly into Contacts. Then click on the green button to proceed that says Upload File. The first section here mentions delimiter and qualifier, which are pertinent to CSV files, and it has to do with the formatting. You don't have to mess with that. Just look for the plus Add Files icon below. Click on that, and you'll be prompted to locate your contact file that you created. So look for the file you made a minute ago by exporting out of whatever system you were in, and select it. And check the box that says first row is header row. That's the same as the row that has the names of the columns, such as first name, email address, and so forth. After you've selected your file and clicked on first row as header row, proceed to the green button, select permissions, and click on it. This is where you're selecting ownership. At this time, you want everything to be as owner. You are the owner of the data. You can get into data sharing later for teams and so forth, but for now, select owner and click on the green button to proceed that says Map Fields. This is where we're going to tell ClientConnect what rows to use and how they're going to be labeled. So what you're seeing are all the available fields of information, and then the header names, that is the row names from your CSV file that you just uploaded, and then sample data, which is essentially the first row after the header row, so that you can see what an example of your row's data looks like. So in this case, we have a header called first name. It's mapping to a name called Aaron. That's fairly intuitive there, that it's a first name. So we're going to click the drop down. Everything defaults to do not map this field, so we need to select all the fields that we're going to be using. And then we want to find the corresponding value in the list. So in this case, we're mapping first name to first name. So we go down the list and we look at other data fields we might want to pull in, such as last name. Click on that drop down and look for last name and select that. Go down the list and select anything else that's pertinent. You may have a row for contact birthdays, which is terrific, because then you can use e-cards and so forth. Select birthday on that field, and then you'll see this in some other cases. There are situations where you need to select the preferred format of your data. So you've got to look very carefully at the column in your spreadsheet to make sure that the punctuation matches. If your row has hyphens for dates, select the one with hyphens. If it uses forward slashes, select the ones for forward slashes. You don't have to map every field. Certainly not required. But you do want to at least get in names and email addresses and probably phone numbers. This row says email address, and there's an example of an email address there, so that's pretty clear. We're going to go down and we're going to select primary email address. You even have the options of skipping items that are duplicates and so forth, or telling it to ignore duplicates, your choice. If you have more than one row for email addresses, you can select, for example, secondary email address. Or you can choose not to map the field just by leaving it alone. So go down the list and make sure everything is present and accounted for that you want to pull in. Again, there may be many rows that you're not using. Don't worry about them. Just leave them all defaulted to do not map this field. Now, one word about rows that have groups or notes, items like that. You may want to map a column along those lines. In this case, there's one called keywords, which would roughly correspond to groups, but it could be called something like contact groups, or it may say notes or something along those lines. The best field you can use for descriptive words for your clients whom you might want to group later would be found under the drop-down that says description grouping tags. So that's for random information that delineates maybe the type of contact you have, or maybe interests, hobbies, sortable things of that nature. For items like buyer or seller or agent or past buyer or past seller, you're going to want to use the field called tags. So just select tags for whatever row you have which says buyer and seller, or the more simple descriptions of general client groupings. So description grouping tags for your personal sortable values, such as stamp collectors or firefighters, and then use tags for buyer, seller, past seller. Now there's one more field that we need to add, and you may remember that in our CSV file we added a row called status. So the green button at the bottom called Add Field, I want you to click on that, and then you are going to select status from the list of options. There's several default values available for your status. Go ahead and select New, since these are going to be new contacts. Then look for the green button below to proceed called Analyze Data. Click on that. Let ClientConnect do the data analysis. Now, if you see values under warning or skip, that could be duplicates. That could be items where the data is invalid, such as an email address that's missing the @ sign or something along those lines. You'll always be able to get details by looking at the line in question. The button on the left will tell you if it's a warning or an invalid. If it's an invalid, you may go ahead and click the pencil to the right, and you can make whatever changes are necessary, as opposed to starting over. Once you've got all the values the way you'd like them, go ahead and click the green button at the bottom to proceed, called Import Data. ClientConnect will give you its progress screen, and it will tell you once all the contacts have been imported. In my example, I created 39 contacts by importing them from that CSV file. That's all there is to it. If you'd like more assistance, please contact our help desk at bhghome.com, or give them a call, 925-924-4700. Thank you very much for watching.